It wasn't an easy decision by any means. Jason and I were involved way back when we were teaching at a large school in doing the research for starting a small school. And we looked at all different kinds of models, and we did just extensive research from books to internet to site visits. Some of the schools that we saw that were functioning better than others were teacher-led schools. So we really looked at that structure and said, coming from a large school where the teachers, there was like this weird adversarial kind of feeling between administration and teachers, and like this separation, that we thought, well, maybe it makes more sense for the teachers to feel like that they're the ones empowered in making the decisions. And one of the things that was important to us, and a couple other teachers that got on board, was the concept of social justice. And that's what our school was formed around, and part of that is everyone on staff taking responsibility and accountability for what they do, and that seemed to make far more sense in a teacher co-op or a teacher-led school, that if everyone has that kind of shared role, that the responsibility would come hand in hand with that, where as soon as you kind of introduce this other kind of hierarchy, that becomes harder to pull off. One of the examples that comes to mind is when I was teaching at a larger school. For example, in order to do the kinds of things that I wanted to do as a teacher, it had to take place outside of school. So it really came down to, well, if everyone in the school kind of agreed on this kind of being the overriding idea, that we're really, part of our job as teachers is to empower our students to become, active citizens and become informed and advocates for themselves. If it's part of the curriculum, the collaboration is built in. Whether you're teaching in the same room or not, as long as you're working on those same concepts, you have a full collaboration. And then when you do meet, you can kind of talk more specifically about how you do that. Well, I think, first of all, I think the kids see us in the halls between classes and wherever. They see that we like each other. And, it sounds kind of corny for lack of another term, but it's not a matter of us against them or whatever, that the relationship is there between the staff members, too. And I think that's important, that the kids, because the kids do call it kind of the family, that connection is really important, that it is a matter of caring about the other person and wanting that other person to be successful in what they do. For the most part, Jason, the other lead teacher, tends to handle kind of the outhouse things that take place outside of the building, and he does budget and those kinds of things. And then my role tends to be more working with students and parents and in-house kinds of things. I'm also the special ed administrator, so I deal with the special ed population and all the IEPs and working with compliance and those things. It's very informal. We just basically sit around at a table or a room or whatever, and we talk, it's more as friends first, in terms of what needs to be done. And we look at people's schedules, talents, interests, and basically, then whoever draws the shortest straw. No, really, it's a decision that's made by the group. Oh, it's absolutely a mixed blessing. The concept of consensus is a wonderful concept, but it's really a difficult one. It really comes down to, we always have to go back to what's best for the kids and what's best for the school. For example, every semester as a staff we come together and write, we talk about, first of all, teaching to your passion. What do you want to teach next semester if you had your say in what you teach? And then what needs to be covered for kids to get the credits that they need. And so a lot of it is done, a blackboard in the classroom, and we list the categories, and we'll look at, well, we have X number of seniors, and we have this number of seniors that needs such and such credit. So we have to have a physics class or whatever. So these are the classes that we have to have. And then these are the classes that the teachers would like to teach. And we do all of it together as a group. And then the other things, just kind of as they come in, we kind of get together and say, this needs to be done and this needs to be done. And it's not just the two of us exclusively doing it, too. We also get support from other staff members who, we kind of talk about, is anyone willing to take this on? And, can you work with someone? Can someone support this person? So it's not always consistent, just because there are times of year where things are much heavier than others, or where someone might be taking a class outside of school and they can't take on as much responsibility, so things are very fluid. The students know who's in charge, so to speak, and in a large school oftentimes they have the administrator or the AP or someone they can go to that questions the teacher in terms of what's taking place. And in a teacher co-op, especially when that's smaller, the kids know that they don't get to go over my head, so to speak, and that every teacher is going to back the other teacher up, and that the kids know that the accountability stops right in the classroom, and that's really important too. So that it's not the playing that kind of role in where the teacher feels like they have to answer to someone else. We have to answer to our parents. We have to answer to the school board. We understand those kinds of things. But the bottom line is, if you're working with professionals, you should trust that your professionals are doing what they said they're going to do, and the accountability really should be in the classroom. If a teacher's having a difficult time in their classroom, and even the most experienced teachers, we all have difficult times in the classroom, if the students know that even though it's my classroom, it is part of this school community, that we help each other, so that if I come in to help another teacher who's having a situation, it's not a matter of my handling it for her. It's a support situation, and that the accountability goes across the board. So if I were to remove a student from another class, I always make sure that the follow-up is that they have to come back and make things right with that teacher. So again, and oftentimes that doesn't happen in a big school. A kid is just pulled out by security or whatever and suspended, and then a day or 3 or whatever later they just appear back in the classroom, and there's no mediation for another term between that student and that teacher. And at the beginning it's like, well, why are you coming into this class? It's like, this is our school. And if you can't do what you need to do right now, you need to come with me so that so and so can continue teaching, and then let's see what we can work out. And it doesn't take long for them to see that that's how it works, and I think that's important. It's not for everyone. The bottom line is the commitment has to be. It's almost an unhealthy commitment that goes into it. Why there isn't any good reason. There isn't. It's a strange obsession of. A love for what we do. And it's just a desire for things to be different. I mean, once you get to know these kids, and you get to know kids in a large school fairly well, but you get to know kids in a small school just in an amazingly short amount of time. New kids that come to the building within days are giving you their life history. And you see, for so many of these kids, years of things that they've had to deal with that are very unfair. And it's hard to just walk away from it. You get to know these people that are part of it, the staff that you work with and the kids that you work with, and it's bigger than that. It's hard to say. Measuring success is it's a difficult thing, because a lot of stuff that measures success is not measurable in the traditional sense. How do I know it's successful? You know what? Part of it is just being here and hearing between classes teachers laughing and telling each other stories and proud of what they're doing, and it's there's a direct correlation between what's happening in the classroom and if the co-op is working. I also know that if a teacher's out for a couple of days for illness or I see how the dynamics change in the building. So there's a direct correlation between, is everyone here both physically and and when we're all here and we're all feeling well and doing what we can, there's an absolute chemistry in the building that's undeniable. Yeah. So too, we're not saying that this is the answer, that all schools should be teacher-led. But we are saying that if this is what we're doing and we're trying to do what's right for kids, other people who are being hired and paid and whose job is to support kids too, have to find a way of getting past this, and they need to be working in central office if we're going to be talking about innovative schools, we need to be talking about innovative approaches to administration there as well. How do you support these schools? How to support the people who are starting them at first, to give them the support to see if they can succeed, and then help them sustain. And if they can't, I don't have problems with schools closing, if they were honestly supported and they're still not doing what they need to do to be held accountable. But the question I always have to ask is, where was the support when they were struggling? Was it there?